Okay, good afternoon, friends. Can you hear me okay, Rich? Are we good?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, good. Thank you. Um, well, we have another wonderful opportunity or I think it's a wonderful opportunity because today I'm going to be able to introduce and interview another one of our Eastern Key Federation head instructors. I'm so proud of everyone, and I just am excited to share the background of everyone and talk about yet another interesting topic today. So let me start off by just saying our guest. I'm going to do some introductions. It said interview, but when I talked to Dr. Zimmerman Sensei this week, he said, I really don't like talking about myself. And I said, well, I'm good at talking about people. So I did go back and I found all kinds of interesting background stuff that I didn't know that I had because I've known Paul for a long time. So let me just say a number of things that I was able to draw up to help you get to know him a little bit better. And then I won't put him on the spot having to talk about himself so much as he says. So Dr. Paul Zimmerman is our head instructor at Appalachian Ki Aikido based in Boone, North Carolina. Let me explain a little background because it's a really interesting place. Boone, North Carolina is a ski town, so it's got to be great. And a lot of people are very interested in outdoor activities. It's also the home of Appalachian State University, one of the state schools in North Carolina. And probably around 2003, I think, this Bill Orwatt, you're going to like this story, or maybe you know it, but some of you who know Pierce Sensei well knows that he has a longtime friend that goes way, way back in the Ki Society when he was just opening his first dojos in New Jersey. And that gentleman's name is Bill Lynch. And Bill Lynch was the teacher of Mick Kreshock, who is a doctor of education, who was teaching a university club at Appalachian State University. And Bill Lynch would drive in and kind of serve as guest instructor to keep the group going. And Paul Zimmerman was there as well. And so they were, the instructors were two doctors, one doctor of education, and as I will explain, Dr. Zimmerman is a medical doctor, specifically in podiatry. So since 1993, he has had a clinic called Boone Podiatry. And he did his, I'm just going to read here, podiatric orthopedic surgical residency at the Veterans Administration Medical Center in Tagus, Maine. He did his undergraduate work in biology in 1986 in Syracuse University in New York. He's a fellow of the American Professional Wound Care Association. He's also a fellow of the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeries. And he served as a member of the American Board of Podiatric Orthopedics and Primary Podiatric Medicine. So he's highly credentialed. And interestingly enough, the reason why I had his resume, he's probably sitting there right now going, where are you getting this stuff? Is because in 2009, he asked me to write him a letter of recommendation along with others because he decided to pursue a master's in health administration. And I could relate to it because my father, who was trained as a dentist, always said to me, I don't know why, but he would say it all the time, they never told me how to run a business, how to run an office, how to do payroll, how to take care of insurance, how to file insurance. And I think it's the same thing in the medical profession, which is why it's really hard to start out on your own and start your own clinic solo. And yet this is what Zimmerman Sensei did. And after growing his practice successfully for 13 years, he recognized, you know what, I just need to improve my education. And one of his friends was enrolled at this University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill program. And so he applied, he got in. And so he's also has this master's degree in health administration, which I think is really interesting. I also want to explain something briefly, but I'll call it a fun fact. And it's just a really interesting story. And Zimmerman Sensei has no idea I'm going to do this, but I have a prop first, and I'm going to tee you up, Rich. Right after this, I'm going to ask you to pull up that picture, Rich. So I have a shirt, and on the front of it, it says back to back to back. And on the back of it, I don't know if you can see this, but it says Appalachian State. There's 3 footballs, 2005, 2006, 2007, NCAA Division I AA national champions. Now, in America, you know, football is a big deal. And the story behind this 3 national championships actually has something to do with Zimmerman Sensei. So, Rich, could you do the screen share and pull up that photo I just sent you? Okay. What does this picture and Ki Aikido have in common? So you're looking at a bunch of happy people, and you see the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine, and it says all-time upset, Appalachian State stuns number 5 Michigan. So let me just read this, because headquarters in Japan published this little article, and I'm just going to quote here from what we submitted. So the question was, what does this picture and Ki Aikido have in common? 3 Division I AA national championships. The upset of all time, as it were. The underdog football team from the smaller Division I AA went right into the home stadium of NCAA football powerhouse, the University of Michigan. This was like a David and Goliath story. But here's the interesting part. The answer to the question is actually the power of Ki. So at the request of Appalachian State University strength, speed, and conditioning coach, Russell Patterson, Ki Aikido was introduced to the football team just before their path to greatness. Coach Patterson was looking for something new and different that his team could work on in the off-season, something that might help them to think and perform to the best of their abilities. On Monday, January 10th, 2005, Eastern Ki Federation Chief Instructor David Shaner conducted a pivotal opening session. This session was a giant Kigatsuku for the members of the ASU football team. Shaner Sensei simply taught them the 4 basic principles and was ably assisted by South Carolina Ki Aikido head instructor Eric Carroll and Boone, North Carolina instructors Mick Kresok Sensei and Paul Zimmerman Sensei, along with members of the ASU Ki Aikido Club. Together, they helped each member of the football team discover the power of their whole iceberg. They experienced for themselves the original oneness of mind and body. Sensei Zimmerman and Kresok continued to lead this journey for the next following weeks. I think it was like 10 weeks or 12 weeks. And they taught the ASU football players, especially the linemen, how to extend Ki, move from the one point, and that mind leads body. At the opening of the seminar, Shaner Sensei chose the biggest and strongest players to demonstrate, just as Toi Sensei had always done in his public demonstrations. Shaner Sensei taught them unbendable arm and unraisable body. Then there was a demonstration of Ki testing. While the players were in their usual football stances, Shaner Sensei lightly touched them and pushed them all over until they were taught correctly how to keep one point while in their football stances. I think this is okay, thank you, Rich. I think while it's kind of almost a silly story to make a causal connection, but the fact is, before that 2005 season, before the streak, 2005, 6, and 7, Zimmerman Sensei and Kresok Sensei worked with the team extensively in the off season and taught them these basic fundamentals, like when you're in your stance, keep one point. And to me, it's amazing that this kind of David and Goliath story where the little guys from little Division I AA football take on these monsters at the University of Michigan and actually defeated them in front of a nationally televised audience, hence Sports Illustrated. So my point is, you never know. Every day, you never know what the effect is going to be of these little things. But Zimmerman Sensei, I'm sure, is not going to take credit for 3 national championships, but nevertheless, the players really worked on this, and it certainly fits into the narrative of David versus Goliath. So that said, I'd like to get to the discussion today, and simply because I used a bunch of time, Paul, to introduce you, is there anything in particular that, I did want to say that when Pierce Sensei was living in North Carolina many years, he helped a lot, Paul, and Kei Sensei too. And by the way, Kei Sensei wrote to me today, Paul, and the whole Raleigh Ki-Aikido dojo can't be on the call today because they're actually moving their dojo from one location to another. And she wanted me to tell you how much she missed not being able to be with you today, since I know you and Kei Sensei are close, and that she helped you a lot, as did Harold Sensei. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Paul, and say, do you have anything to clarify, or did I get anything wrong, or do you want to chime in any way?
Where are our rings? We should have.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get a ring either, but you're the one that needs the ring. I showed up one time and did a Kigatsuki.
That was fantastic, though. Yeah. No, you got it all pretty much like it was.
Okay, let's do this then. If you don't have anything else to add, we decided we were going to do a little plan here and let Zimmerman Sensei simply read with Freiling Sensei's help. He's going to read and kind of narrate the book itself. And then we'll have the rest of the call to just kind of talk about the story of how and why this book came to him. And an interesting thing that I guess what would be a lesson for everyone is, I don't know about you, but I have ideas every day of things that I think might be cool and a neat thing to do. And I execute on just a tiny, tiny percentage of them. But what was really interesting to me about Zimmerman Sensei here, and why I went into his background, which was not anything to do with art or design or book writing, but nevertheless, he had this experience, and the most important thing is he executed it to completion. And now he's the author of this children's story. He was able to read that to he has a 4.5-year-old son, and he was able to, he said when his son was 2, it was a very popular book, but when you're 4.5, you graduate to Spider-Man.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs. Okay, well, I'm going to turn it over to you and Freiling Sensei, and let you kind of do the dance of walking us through the book first. And if you want to tell us the story while you read, that's fine. Or if you want to read the story, we can do it however you like.
Sure. Thank you, Shane. Thanks, Rich, for hosting this. And, thanks to everyone who's here. I'm not sure who everyone is, because this is really the first time I've been on Zoom, and I'm not, don't know exactly who's here. But you know, this was not something that I had anticipated. It was just something that happened. There was a seminar in about 2015, and we were waiting at the base of the Place of Peace, myself and my wife, Marjan. And actually, it wasn't Steve Wolf, it was Michael who was with us.
Oh, okay.
And we were noticing ducks on the path. They were acting a little bit agitated. There was 3 or 4 of them. We were commenting on that amongst each other. And I think Michael said it's probably the construction that's bothering them. And I remember Marjan said, that's kind of cute. It could be a kid's story, meditating ducks, you know. And I didn't think about it. We went up and we started to meditate, and it wasn't but a few minutes into it that you know, I was having lots of discomfort in my knees, my ankles, my hips. I think it was a pretty active seminar that weekend. And so I was having a hard time calming myself, and so I just started thinking through the story. You know, I mean, it's a kid's story. It's not really complicated. And I thought, so the concept being the ducks are aggravated. They can't find a place to be calm, and so they need to find somewhere. So we get through, 3 or 4 different scenarios, try to add a little bit of humor to each of those, and then finally they waddle up to the place of peace and find something that makes them happy. And that was the basis for the story. And Marjan was pregnant at the time. I didn't mention that, and maybe that made me think more about a kid's book. I don't know. It's possible. So if you want to, I'll go through some of the book. I don't know how much you guys want to hear me read a children's book to you, but it's happening. Let's see if I can get all this out of the way. There we go. Okay. So the illustrator, Hallie, okay, so basically I came back from the seminar and I just threw this idea, I had written it down very quickly and I just threw this idea aside. Oscar was born 4 or 5 months later, and I picked it up again. I have a professor friend who's an art professor at ASU, and I called him and asked him. He gave me the name of a couple of people, but Hallie was the person who seemed to be most interested, and so talked with her. She sent me stuff that she had done, and she was a stickler. She was very particular about how things should look, and so we went. She had me do a storyboard. I would write the words on one side, and the other side I would try to draw or write down what I wanted to happen, and then she asked for pictures. I had to come back down to Furman, took a couple of 100 pictures and sent her everything. And then she put it together over a period of, I'd say, 3 or 4 months. And then we looked for a publisher. We sent it into a number of places. Archway was fine to do this. We liked the idea that they put it all together, and they also would, do the business part of it. And got a book.
Excellent.
Yeah. So if you want to, I'll kind of read through it, and anytime anyone wants to stop me, don't hesitate. So the ducks are returning to their campus home after a season away, which is actually something that would happen at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year, and so this is definitely the opposite of reality here. I think this was probably in October when this happened. Okay. They come home to find noise and construction all around the lake. The campus is growing to suit the people's needs, but this disrupts the ducks' quiet place. I don't live in I don't live near Furman. What was the construction? Was it anything in particular? Is it a big?
Yes, it was the dormitory. They were remodeling the big residence hall next to the place of peace. And I think expanding a parking lot. So those photos are, very realistic, caution tape, cranes, etc. Yeah. And I was going to say, Paul, what I noted, I think maybe 8 times, I love the repetition of the words. I mean, if you read it like you're reading it to a child, the phrase quiet place is repeated again and again and again. And I just think that's if it's a bedtime story, right? It's the peaceful ducks. It's great that theme goes through the text. But I mean, people can look out for that quiet place or peaceful place.
Yeah. So the ducks wander around in search of a new quiet place. They first try to settle in a dormitory, but there's too much commotion there. I think Hallie was very helpful in some of these pictures and giving us some realistic humor.
That
Okay.
definitely looks like college with the bunny
Yeah.
stickers and the pizza box and the
Yeah.
coffee on the floor,
Yeah.
laptop. She nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. She did. Okay. Although it is relatively quiet in the classroom, it doesn't seem quite peaceful. Actually, Marjan is a history professor, and she suggested this little bit of humor, though Hallie added the 10-page 12 font thing to make it look like it was a an actual. Oh, sorry. So what am I doing with my life? That's what Marjan wanted to say. Okay. The dining hall is anything but quiet and restful. Immediately, the ducks know this isn't the place for lasting peace they are looking for. And of course, the cleaver and the foie gras.
Yeah, time to escape.
Yeah.
Like the Little Mermaid.
Yeah. Okay. At last, the ducks think they found the perfect quiet place in the university library, but they're quickly shown the way out.
I appreciate the no waterfowl sign there in the library.
Isn't that in all libraries? Okay. Dejected, they make their way back to the lake. Okay, and then the ducks come across a pebble path that feels soft on their weary feet. And they've never seen this on the campus before. They're thirsty after their long day traveling around the campus, and they appreciate the refreshment. I'm not sure you would appreciate them doing that, but
Yeah.
they pause at the temple entrance. It was a number of versions before I got Hallie to get this key symbol just right. But she did. She got it just good. Surprised by these silent people, since others had been so loud and boisterous throughout the day, the ducks quack as they check out the temple. The leader smiles and silently welcomes them. Eventually, the ducks discover that this is the peaceful place they are looking for. We really tried to make that just a everyday thing. It's not a bunch of people in doggies, and we're just people looking for somewhere. After a restful break from the hustle and bustle of campus life, the ducks return to their home on the lake. And although the noise of a busy campus remains, the ducks now have a quiet place to go where they can meditate with their new friends. Okay. Pretty straightforward. But I guess, the ducks could be metaphorical for people. As a matter of fact, when I was thinking about this, I was swimming this morning actually, and I was thinking about it's been 5 years since I've thought about this. And that particular day, Marjan, she was anxious about the place of peace. I guess I might have created that in her, I made her feel like this was very important. You need to do this just right, and bow, bow, bow. And she was anxious about it. And uh, when she finally, got there, and she was in a calm type of situation, it was great. But I mean, I think you could probably, metaphorically push the ducks onto anybody, freshmen on campus, or people just in need of, restorative kind of calm.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then, yeah. It was fun to do. It was fun.
Well, when I heard about it, it was already done. And I was so excited. And what I shared with you was that the matriarch of the Suzuki family, the person with whom I first developed the relationship with the family, Chigusa Suzuki, she herself was an author of children's books. And one, I remember, was about an egg. It was about, it was a children's story about, I think it was like intended for, you have a small child and you've got another one on the way. So it's about life coming from eggs, that kind of a thing, and about the birth of the new baby, that kind of thing. And so I thought the waterfowl image there was also amazing, and that you just told me that your bride was pregnant at the time. Um, uh, when you, because I have to admit, when he first told me this story, I went straight to, whoa, what happened? You know, almost like Paul had this vision of a children's book, and Chigusa was an author of children's books. So I was like thinking, okay, what's going on? But what a beautiful story. And Paul, I bought like 20 copies immediately and started giving it to people who were instrumental in helping to bring the place of peace here, donors, the family, other administrators, President Shai and his wife, Susan. In any event, it's just a beautiful story. Well, why don't we open it up and just ask if anyone has questions about any aspect of this story, or about just the idea of actually bringing an idea to fruition rather than, oh, I had an idea and that was nice, and then we don't follow through. Anyone have any comments or questions for Zimmerman Sensei?
Sure, Sensei, I'd love to ask Zimmerman Sensei a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Paul, I love you know, meditation for me personally is a time to you know, all of a sudden when I can calm my mind, it's amazing that the creative juices begin to flow a little bit more, and it feels like this is something that happened to you pretty profoundly at that time. Have you had similar experiences in other times that you've been meditating, or is this something that you do regularly to sort of unlock creativity? Are you using meditation to, you know, sort of channel the left side of the brain a little bit in terms of, you know, the creative part?
Yeah, well, like I think, you know, maybe I mentioned earlier, this was not probably the most meditative time for me because of some discomfort I was having. So I wasn't getting too deep, but yeah, I used the story to help bring me to a place that was, I don't know if I would call it calmer, but it helped me get through some painful moments. And yeah, I mean, I have been key breathing for many years, and I even did like transcendental meditation many years before that. But I can't say that this particular moment in time, I was being very meditative. I was kind of just using the situation to help me make it through.
How would you, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, Freiling Sensei, you had a theory about that. Do you want to put up those three orders and kind of explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm fascinated by the use of meditation as a way to obviously calm your mind, and it sort of unlocks talents, and clearly it unlocks something with you too, Zimmerman Sensei. And we were talking earlier today about you kind of going back to a slide, which I'll share with everyone again as I find it. Bear with me for a second. Hold on. Just hold on. Multitasking is a myth. All right. So this, everyone has seen this before, and it's an interesting time to bring it back because it feels like this is something that happened to you, Zimmerman Sensei. This is the Chandra Sensei's 3 orders of body, mind, awareness. It feels like, and you mentioned that you were going through a lot of pain during this session, and certainly that was probably putting you in a very busy 3rd order body, mind, awareness. And somehow, by calming yourself, unlocking this creative channel, and using that as a focal point, you entered in to a very productive 2nd order body, mind, awareness. And, you know, again, I'm just trying to create some dotted lines between things we've discussed in the past and your story. And I'm wondering if this sort of resonates with you. Is this something that feels true?
Yes, most definitely. Yes.
The interesting thing about that, Rich, to me, or your observation is, you know, in the 2nd order, if the X, the object that you're focusing on, it needs to be dynamic because your mind wants to move. And that's why mantras, mudras, mandalas all have that dynamic thread that allows you to sustain concentration on a single thing. Same thing, key breathing, key meditation. But what I found interesting, because this is also can be a part of someone's self-care, managing pain, is if you can create a thread for your conscious mind to go to, and in this case, it was the ducks, and the sequence was the page by page, at least as Paul was describing it. So there was a thread of sustained concentration that allowed him to move off a very uncomfortable state, which was knee, hip, and ankle pain, because we'd already been doing, as he said, a very rigorous seminar. So this is just kind of an observation that we do this in daily life, which is simply the practice of learning how to focus and sustain your focus and to maintain relaxation. And in this case, it's almost like you've created a thread that enabled you to, you know, maintain calmness and do something with your mind better than just sitting there being unhappy with yourself because you were in pain. So you kind of use the power of your mind to create something different. Anyway, that's just my take on what Rich's observation was earlier today.
You got it. Oh, from Sarah. You all saw the question, right? Or did it just come to me? Sarah asked a question about the publishers. The publishers were great. They were a little pushy, you know. They wanted us to present it in such a way, and so we had to do it multiple times to get it just right. And then afterwards, and the book came out, they were also wanting us to promote it, and I didn't really do that very much. So it was good. It was one of 3 or 4 places that we sent it. Archway does this a lot, and you know, a lot of this stuff is online, but it's a good publisher.
So I know, Zimmerman Sensei, I know your mother is a highly, highly talented musician. Did you get, I mean, is this part of like some art inspiration that may have come from your mother, or how do you explain it?
I have a family full of musicians, actually. I was the black sheep. I went into medicine. But I was a musician, trombonist. I still play the trombone all the time. I was very good. Went to Interlochen Arts Academy. I was offered Eastman School and Juilliard, but it was a very unusual time. I wasn't able to do either of those at that time. And so, you know, I still play the trombone. I love to do it. I play in a jazz group, and it's fun. And music is very important to me, and certainly my family. I have my mom and my brother,
Excellent.
musician.
Any other question from anybody?
Zimmerman to say, if I may, I have another question too. I admire how beautifully you simplified, I think, some very lofty principles of Aikido and relaxation, but you did it in such a way that it was accessible to everybody. And I think that's incredibly difficult. You know, I've, you know, obviously when I try to teach four basic principles to other audiences outside of Aikido, like even business and things like that, the challenge is to try to use terminology that doesn't alienate people because this comes from another culture, right? You're trying to do it to create a common denominator and make it feel invitational and accessible. And not only did you do that, but you did it to children, in which you have to even be more simple and more clear. And so first of all, I'm paying a compliment to how artfully you did this, but it feels to me this is something you are doing with Aikido a lot. I mean, can you tell me if simplifying these principles as you teach, is this something that is this a way that you are teaching?
Yeah, thank you, Rich. You know, when we were talking through this book, myself and Marjan, I mean, we really wanted to. We didn't want to. I mean, there's boisterous. I mean, we wanted to have words in it that were interesting, that, you know, children could learn from and say, hey, you know, I have a 4.5-year-old. He asks me 50 times a day, oh, what does that mean? And I think that's a very good teaching moment. And so we wanted to have things like that. We also wanted, you know, the concepts to be pretty straightforward and to repeat things so it would make it more straightforward. But by the way, our Aikido classes started last week in person in the dojo. There's one tonight at 6, as a matter of fact. You know, it's been the longest time since I've done any Aikido. I don't know if I can answer the question. What do I do? I mean, we try to make things as simple and break it down in Kaisha way, and then you know, move forward. But I don't know if I can answer your question, Rich. But thanks.
I think you did. Thank you.
Thanks. I think Sally had a question there. I didn't see it.
Sally, did you want to unmute yourself and ask it?
I don't know if it's a question, but in the book, when the ducks go to the place of peace and the leader welcomes them, I really loved that. It reminded me of, as I put in my note in the chat box, of the concept of living in the moment and accepting what comes with no expectations. And in none of the other areas were those ducks welcome. So I really appreciated that. Oh, and then I had one more question. In the classroom, who's the little face in the corner of the blackboard?
Oh, that's World War II. Oh, come on, help me, guys.
Oh, Kilroy.
Kilroy, that's right.
Kilroy was here. I don't know how that got on the blackboard.
I don't know either.
Very clever.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally.
That's great. Thank you, Sally. Any other observations, questions, comments? Well, let me ask someone. I know I'm just looking in the audience here. Olaf, you're an artist. Did you enjoy the illustrations? Artist to artist?
Yeah, very nice. But actually, I did have kind of a question. Zimmermann Sensei, you are a pediatrician, and you're probably used to talking to kids in a simple way. Do you think
I'm
that
not a pediatrician, actually. I'm a
Oh.
podiatrist.
The diet.
Yeah. So I'm a
okay,
foot and ankle specialist. That totally blows your question, doesn't it?
Yes.
But I
Forget
do
it.
have a 4.5-year-old, and I know more about dinosaurs than all of you put together. I guess. I do. I'm not joking. I really do.
I believe it. Yeah.
Zimmerman Sensei, I read The Peaceful Ducks to my children's class
Okay.
during one of our Zoom Aikido classes. And we always start our class with the shokushu and discussing the shokushu, and they really love discussing the shokushu. So we enjoyed, they were enraptured by your book.
Oh, really? Good.
And I set it up so that I could read it easily and have the book held up to the screen so they could see the illustrations. And they had not been to the place of peace, and this has all been during COVID, so they have that to look forward to down the road. But they really enjoyed it.
What age was your class?
They were 8 to 13. Yeah, even the older ones enjoyed it as well. Yeah, so it was awesome. Thank you.
You. Chandra Sensei, is there like, does the bookstore know about this? Can I give them a call?
Oh, I already have. Yeah. Not only does the bookstore, but when it first came out, I took it to the bookstore, which is now a Barnes and Noble. It's like,
Oh, really?
or at least I think it was like, they outsourced it. They may have changed by now, because as you said, it's been like a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years. But also there's a downtown bookstore called Furman on Main or something like that. But they have books, lots of books of Furman faculty included, and with a special display. And I took it to them and I said, hey, this is a children's book about a building on the Furman campus. So surely you're going to want to have this displayed with the other books. And they did at the time. So I don't know if they're continuing to do it or whether they've, sought to reorder and back order. You would probably know if there was a steady stream of purchases. But as soon as it became available, yeah, I took it to both bookstores. And in fact, we've been talking the last couple of weeks about our friend Eubank Sensei, who is graduated from Furman, and he became a doctor of chiropractic medicine and general medicine, and now he's at his residency. It turned out when I walked into the bookstore, Jim's roommate in college was the manager of the Furman bookstore. So it was all about the place of peace. And so I had a champion in the bookstore at the time that was like, oh, whoa, place of peace, children's book, this is great. So anyway, small world.
Yeah.
Small world. Is there another chat? I can't see.
Oh, not a question.
Well, Jaime is from New York, and so he's asking the question, because obviously living in a noisy city, where do you find a place of peace like the Ducks did? And that is especially, I don't know, New York is going through some tough times right now, so I can imagine that being, a pretty big question. Everyone's got to find their place of peace, right?
Right. And if you can find it wherever you are, now you really, now you really got something. Yeah, you can bring it with you. That would be great. Well, I'm looking up at the clock. Does anyone have a last question before I kind of, I'm going to set up next week's and give you a little introduction, but I don't want to end the call if anyone has a question for Paul. I never know. Paul, Dr. Zimmerman, Zimmerman Sensei, it's very confusing. It's very confusing.
Thank you guys, all of you guys, for listening.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing. It's a very personal story, and you're a man of many talents. You're very humble. You know, Toi Sensei taught me a lot of things, but one of those things is he said, you know, the students are a reflection of the teacher. And when I met your students, and before you, Mick, you know, when you guys were doing it together, you've always had the most genuine people, members of your dojo. You know, Josh, I love Josh. I remember Ryan D and Wayne Fee and all these people there. Everyone's a gem. And, you know, why is that? Well, you're attracting wonderful people because you yourself are a very generous, talented, and inspiring person. So thank you very much for sharing today. And I know you've got a class coming up in the dojo, and we decided to do this interview format so you wouldn't have to prepare so much because you're a busy man, seeing patients and doing surgeries and going to, as I recall, you've got patients in not one, but multiple medical centers and hospitals that you see.
I go to another county, yes.
Yeah.
On Thursday afternoons, yes.
Oh, are we, so we cut into the
Oh, no, I saw 21 people this afternoon. I just landed it early and I got back in time.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, thank you for sharing. We really appreciate it. And if I turn my attention to next week, I'm excited. I call him DB squared because Danielle Bardinelli and Derek Budiker are the assistant head instructor and head instructor, respectfully, in Connecticut Ki Aikido. And DB squared, Bardinelli Sensei and Budiker Sensei, are going to be speaking next week. I'll share the title with you right now. It's Not About You, focusing on helping others. Danielle and Derek will discuss how following the key principles of leadership, that is 5 principles of Shinshin Totsu Aikido, have helped them to grow and develop in their Aikido training, business, and personal lives. They will share actual examples of how they have applied them with the hopes that all will see that these are truly universal principles that can be used in all aspects of your life. So I know that the Connecticut Dojo is also beginning to have classes, that their COVID numbers are way, way down there in the tri-state. They're in Connecticut, New Jersey, New York. It's really good. We're here in South Carolina. It's not so good. But anyway, I'm excited to hear from both Derek and Danielle. They always are attending our seminars, and they always come together and bring members of their dojo. But they always come together, and you can just tell they have a lot of respect and warm relationship between each other, and clearly they help each other grow and develop. They're ukes for each other constantly in their dojo because it's like 2 senior people. So with that said, Freiling Sensei, anything else?
No, this is fantastic. Thank you, Shannon Sensei. We'll be receiving our invites for next week's session on Monday. So more information to come.
Okay. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. And remember, breathing, meditation every day. And if you can find your quiet place wherever you are, then I know Zimmerman Sensei will think, it's a good thing I wrote that book, because we all have that quiet place. All right. I love you, everyone. Take care.